We get a lot of comments and requests about people being confused between the warm and cool colors. And here's an example from one of our viewers. He says, "I'm not clear what you mean by warm or cool colors." And then he refers to quick tip 198, the picture that I used in that quick tip. And he said, in that picture, it looks like varying shades of grays and browns. I'm not colorblind, so what don't I see? Well, we'll just break that one down into the bare basics. This was a photograph the viewer was referring to, the photograph I used in quick tip 198, where I was explaining how we use warm and cool. I didn't explain warm and cool. In fact, I don't think I've ever explained what we mean by warm and cool. Let's break that one down. It starts with the color wheel. Now, it was discovered a long time ago that there are three primary colors. What that means is, of all of the colors we have, there are three that you absolutely can't mix from any other two colors. Yellow. I'll put the color wheel. This is a traditional color wheel. I'll put this up right here. There's yellow and red and blue. You really can't mix any two colors and get blue. You can't mix any two colors and get red. You can't mix any two colors and get yellow. But all other colors we have are made of mixtures of at least two or more of these colors. So that's where we start. Now take another look. Temperature wise, warm, cool. Of the temperature of those primary colors, blue is cool. You can tell it feels cool. We associate cool with the blue ice, or someone turns blue when they get cold, or we use that metaphor of blue often to mean cool. Then there's red, which is a warm color, and yellow. So red and yellow are both warm colors. Blue is a cool color. That's where the whole thing begins. Now, if I've got here on the palette, and so I'm just going to break this thing down for you. Here's blue. That's very dark blue. That's ultramarine blue. Doesn't matter whether it's dark or light. It's going to do the same thing. The value will be different, but nevertheless. Okay, here's my red. I'll just use alizarin crimson. I could use any red. I could use the cadmium red, but alizarin crimson will do the job. And here's a yellow. Alright, so, and there again I could use any yellow. This happens to be hence a yellow light. There you are. Now, look what happens when I pull blue, I pull red, and I pull yellow all together. Let's mix all those together and see what we get. Now see, I didn't do any proportional thing there. I didn't say so much blue, so much red, so much yellow. I didn't do that this time. I'm just getting started. I pull a little bit of blue, a little bit of yellow, and a little bit of red into a little pile and mix them all up and see what we get. And then we see that it's so dark when we mix those colors because we've got two dark versions of these. So it's so dark we can't really see what we get. So we'll just pull a little bit of that mixture down and add a little bit of white to it to see if that tells us what we got. You see, when we do that kind of mixture, we got a, you might call it a brown. I'll put a little bit more of that in there. So you can just see that on the palette now. We can you might read that as a kind of brown. It's very akin to burnt umber. Now what is that? What temperature is that brown? Before we do another thing, what temperature is that brown? And this is where the viewer, I think, started getting confused. So one way we can tell is which color seems to pop out more. Which color can you see in it? Can you see more blue in it, more red in it, or more yellow in it? Now if you can answer that question right off, you will know if there's more red in it, it's warm. Why? Because red is one of the warm colors. If it happened to be lean more towards yellow, it seems to have more yellow in it, you know it's warm. So let's just do this. Let's just break this thing down and let's see what we can do here. And so I'm going to just make a mark right here of this color that I just mixed. Right there. Now, so I said it's got more red in it. What if I wanted to make it cooler? I add a little bit of blue into the mixture. Well, I think I'll just come down right here so that you can see what I'm doing. I add a little bit of blue to the mixture, and I add really quite a bit of blue to the mixture. Now, we can see that that has more blue in it. Let's put, this is pretty much the same value. Now you can see that has more blue in it, so we know that it's cooler. But a cooler might be a comparison. Suppose we had, let me do a little bit of something here. Suppose we have a third one where we introduce more yellow into it. So I'll just pull some yellow in here. Not much, just a little bit. Now what do we have? There we go. Now if you saw that any one of those colors by itself, would you be able to identify a little bit of color in it? And let me just put this photograph right here, like this. Now if you cast your eyes, let's be sure I've got this in. If you cast your eyes into these colors, can you see any of these colors in the photograph? Can you recognize any of those colors as being more blue or more yellow or more red? Now I'll show you a little way. If you can't, you saw me mix them there, but if you can't see it, if you can't see the hue that's dominating that particular neutral color, you can do it another way, and that is, let's take a little bit of white right over here. Let's put a little bit of red. Let's get it the same value. And I've got a piece of paper here. This is one of my little test strips I've used in other quick tips. Alright, so that's red. Now, if I hold this piece of paper next to this, I'm not seeing this any red relating to that. It doesn't feel like this color has any relationship to that. If I put it in here, I still don't feel, it seems to be leaning away from it instead of towards it. But if I put it right here, I begin to feel a little bit of red relating to this red I have here, and that lets me know that's a red. And so that tells me then that the red, the one that leans more towards red, is warmer, the one that leans more towards blue is cooler, and the one that leans more towards yellow is warmer. Now let's do just a little bit more here. I'm going to see if I can get something more neutral. So I'll just pull some of this darker color back into this mix. You see, any combination of colors that can give you neutrals, like complements, which I talked about in that Quick Tip 198. And in Quick Tip 198, you use the complements of blue and orange. But any opposites on the color wheel, or any mixtures that, any colors that have 3 of the primaries in them, are going to give you neutrals one way or another when mixed together. Now this leaning more towards red here, this is that one. If I pull just a little bit more blue in it, and not only just a little bit more blue, but just a little bit more yellow, just a little bit, let's see then if we can get it even more neutral. Now I'll have to add the white to it because I can't see, it's too dark to really tell what we have there. Okay, now we see that it's still leaning a little bit more towards red, but it is more neutral. Well, is it really? Is it really? Is it warm? Is it cool? And this is where it gets confusing to people like the viewer who was making this comment, because when things get really, really neutral, sometimes it's difficult to tell, is it warm, is it cool? Well, let's see. Let's put it right here. You see, that seems to be a little bit more neutral, but seems to be still warmer than this color is. So let's add just a tiny bit more of the blue to it. Now this is the kind of thing that you can play with yourself and just add little tiny bits of the color that you're trying to lean it towards, and then try to identify, is it warm, is it cool? But one thing that you need to understand is that warm and cool are relative. So if a color is totally neutral, I'm going to lighten that up just a little bit. If the color is totally neutral, it's got to have something to be compared with. Now let's put this right here. See, it's getting more and more neutral. Now, is that warm or is it cool? Well, it's in a neutral environment, or it's in a white. White is a neutral. It's in a neutral environment, so we can't really call it warm or cool by itself. But if we add, let's put a little bit of cool in there. If we add a little bit of the blue into it and put that on one side right here, now we can see when it leans towards blue, now we can see this feels warmer. Let's try something else. Let's add a little bit of warmer color to it. So I'm going to go with the yellow this time. Let's put just a little bit of yellow into the same mixture. And let's put it right here. Oh well, I got real stingy with that. A little bit more of the yellow. All right, now let's put it right here, right next to that one. Now, this warmer one makes this one feel cooler. Can you feel that difference? So you see, it's comparative. You might have two colors that would be both warm. You might have two colors, one leaning towards red, one leaning towards yellow. But one may have slightly more blue in it. And if it has more blue in it, it's going to be cooler. If it has more red as compared to blue, it will be warmer. If it has more yellow as compared to blue, it will be warmer. So I think maybe this requires some observation. It's a very subtle thing. So I think this would require some observation and require you just to pull three colors out, three primary colors out, and play with them and try to do little things like this and ask yourself the question, does the color have more blue than red, or more blue than yellow, or even more blue than red and yellow, which would be orange? So if it has more blue, if it's leaning more towards blue, it's cooler. If it's leaning more towards red or yellow, it's warmer. When it's very, very neutral, it's a very subtle thing, and so you have to really hone in and think of it not as gray, not as burnt umber, not as brown, but think of it in terms of those three primary colors. And I think maybe you might get the idea. I want to say one other thing here. A lot of the comments I receive have to do with people having observed other artists talking about the rules of warm and cold. I've heard this, warms advance, cools recede, that sort of thing. And I've heard that you've got to have a certain number of percentages on your painting of warm and cool. Forget all that stuff. All that stuff is theory. It has nothing to do with the reality of painting. If you're a realistic painter, you're observing nature first of all. And what you're observing in nature is going to determine how you compose and put together your painting. And you will find out when you observe nature, there might be something very, very warm in the distance. That might be a sunset, could be about anything. Or you might find that there's something very, very cool right in front of you. So don't get all hung up on everybody else's rules. The fewer rules you have in painting, the better off you're going to be as a painter. Base your decisions on observations and on sound principles. Hope you enjoyed this quick tip. If you have questions or a suggestion for a quick tip, leave us a comment right down here in the YouTube comment box. And take a trip over to DianeMize.com and look at all the things we have there for you, including full-length video tutorials. And while you're there, sign up for our newsletter so you'll always be informed of our latest adventures. And thanks for watching.